Hello, my name is Mayanka. I am accounts and finance trainer from Uplatz. Today, we will cover the topic of import and export. We will discuss what is the import and export under the GST. Import and the export under the GST. In this class, we will discuss introduction and the definitions which are relating to the import and export, so that we can understand the concept of such topic properly, and we can understand what the provision want to explain and what the provision want to say. So before the understanding the provision of such concept, it is important to understand the definitions, and it is important to understand the concept, means the meaning of import and export under the GST. So now we will start import and export under GST. Introduction and the definitions. Introduction and the definition. Import and the export under GST. Introduction. First, we will discuss what is the import and what is the export under the GST, and why the concept of import and export introduced under the GST. Means we will discuss the basic concept of such basic of such concept. So now we will start introduction of such topic. India is well integrated into the web of international business transactions. In India, there are lots of international business transactions. In India, there are lots of international business transactions. Means in India, there are the inward flow of goods, inward flow of services, and there is the outward flow of goods, outward flow of services. Means in India, there are the many transactions which are done by the India with the other countries, with the other countries. Due to this, there is the inflow of goods, inflow of services in India, outflow of goods and outflow of services from India. So in India, there are many international business transactions are there. GST being a business tax, which is impact goods, which is impacts import and the export too. The GST is a indirect tax which is applicable in India, and it is a business tax. It is a business tax. It is it is contain the provision relating to the import and export. GST also contain the provisions which are relating to the importation of goods, importation of services, or both. And it is also contain the provision of export of goods, export of services, or both. So the GST contain the provision of import and export both. Provisions in the GST law seek two. The provision in the GST law seek two. Number one, it provides level playing field to domestic supplier. It will provide level playing field to the domestic supplier versus international supplier in the case of import. Means it is contained the provision in the respect of import. In the respect of import means when there is any supply which is made by the other country to the India. When there is any transaction or there is any supply which is made by the other country in India, means when India receive any goods and receive any service from the any other country. Number two, it is also contain the provision of export. It is also contain the provision of export. Means when any of the goods or any of the service is exported by the India to the any other country, to the any other country. There are the various provisions in the GST which are applicable on the import and on the export of services. All these provisions we will discuss in this chapter. Means we will discuss all the provision relating to the import and export in this concept or in this chapter. First, the provision relating to the import of goods and import of service has been discussed. Then after, we will discuss the provision of export. First, we will discuss the provision of import. Then after, we will discuss the provision of export. We will discuss all the provisions of import and the export of GST in this topic. The relevant statutory provision has been structured first, followed by the analysis thereto. So, before the discussion of import and export provision under the GST, first we will discuss all the important and the relevant definitions which are relating to such concept. Means first we will discuss important definitions. First we will discuss the important definitions which are relating to such provision. So now we will start some important definitions which are relating to the provision of import and export. Relevant definitions. Number one, custom frontier of India. What is the meaning of custom frontiers of India? Custom frontier of India means the limit of custom area. Custom frontier of India means the limit of custom area as defined in section 2 of Custom Act 1962. Section 2, subsection 4 of CGST Act contain the definition of custom frontier of India. Custom frontier of India means the limits of the custom area. The limits of the custom area as defined in section 2 of the Custom Act 1962. The limit of custom area as defined in section 2 of Custom Act 1962. Custom area. What is the meaning of custom area? Section 2, subsection 11 of the Custom Act 1962 define the meaning of custom area. Section 2, subsection 11 of Custom Act 1962 define the meaning of custom area. Custom area means the area of custom station. Custom area means the area of custom station or a warehouse, and it is also includes any area in which imported goods or exported goods are ordinarily kept before the clearance by custom authority. Is that custom area means the area of custom station, or it is also include warehouse. It is also include warehouse and any area. It's also include any area where the imported goods and the exported goods are ordinarily kept before the clearance. Before the clearance at which place the imported goods and the exported goods are kept, then such area will be known as custom area. For the example, before the clearance of goods, some goods are kept at the warehouse in the custom station. At the custom station, there is a warehouse and some goods are stored or some goods are kept before the clearance. Then such warehouse will be considered as custom area. Such warehouse will be considered as custom area. So this is the definition of custom area. The area which is used, the area which is used for the imported and the exported goods before the clearance. So this is the custom area. What is the meaning of custom station? What is the meaning of custom station? Custom station means any custom port. Custom station means any custom port, any custom airport, international courier terminal, foreign post office, or land custom station. Section 2, subsection 13 of Custom Act 1962 define the meaning of custom station. Custom station means any custom port. Custom station means any custom port, any custom airport, any custom airport, international courier terminal, foreign foreign post office, or land custom station, or the land custom station. So this is the definition, this is the meaning of custom station. Custom station means any custom port, any airport, any international courier terminal, foreign post office, or land custom station. Deemed export. What is the meaning of deemed export? Deemed export means such supply of goods, such supply of goods as may be notified under section 147. Is that the supply of goods as may be notified under section 147 is to be known as deemed export. This is the supply of goods. This is the supply of goods, and it is notified under section 147 of CGST Act. Then it will be considered as deemed export. It will be considered as deemed exports. Export of goods. What is the meaning of export of goods? Export of goods. Section 2, subsection 5 of CGST Act 2017 define the meaning of export of goods. Export of goods with its grammatical variance and cognate expression. Export of goods means taking goods out of India to a place outside India. Export means taking goods out of India to a place outside India. Means, for the example, Mr. Ram sent some goods from his Delhi location to USA, then it will be considered as export of goods, because the goods are sent, because the goods are sent by Mr. Ram out of India in USA. So it will be considered as export of goods, taking goods out of India to a place outside India. Number 2, export of services. What is the meaning of export of services? Export of services means supply of any service. Export of service means the supply of any service, when the supply of any service, when number 1, the supplier of the service is located in India. The supplier, the person who is supplying the services, is located in India. The supplier of services located in India. Number 2, the recipient of service, the person who is receiving the service, is in outside India. The recipient of service is located outside India. The person who will receive the service is in outside India. Number 3rd condition is the place of supply of service. The place of supply of service is outside India. Means the service is supplied by the supplier outside India. Number 4, the payment of such service. The payment of such service has been received by the supplier. The payment for such service has been received by the supplier of service in the convertible foreign exchange. The payment for such service has been received by the supplier of service in the convertible foreign exchange. In the convertible foreign exchange, or in the Indian rupees, wherever permitted by the Reserve Bank of India. Means the payment of such service has been received by the supplier of service in convertible foreign exchange, or in Indian rupees, or in the Indian rupees, whenever permitted by the Reserve Bank of India. And the supplier of service and the recipient of service. The supplier of the service and the recipient of service are not merely established of the distinct person in the accordance with explanation 1 to section 8. The supplier of the service and the recipient of the service are not merely establishment of the distinct person in the accordance with explanation 1 in section 8 is that the export of service means when these conditions are satisfied. When there is any supply of service where number one, the supplier is the person who is located in India. The recipient is the person who is located in outside India. The place of supply is outside India, and the payment in the respect of such service has been received in convertible foreign exchange or in Indian rupees, which is permitted by the Reserve Bank of India. And supplier of the service and the recipient of service should not be the establishment of distinct person. It should not be the establishment of distinct person. If these conditions are satisfied, then it will be considered as export of service. It will be considered as export of service. If any of the condition is not satisfied, then it will not be considered as export of service. For the export of service, all the situations should be there. All the situations should be satisfied. So this is the meaning of export of service. Export of service. The next is fixed establishment. What is the meaning of fixed establishment? Fixed establishment means a place other than place of business. The fixed establishment means a place other than place of business, which is characterized by the sufficient degree of permanence, which is categorized by the sufficient degree of permanence and suitable structure in the terms of human and technical resources to supply the services or to receive and use services for its own needs. For its own need. Section 2, subsection 7 of the CGST Act defines the meaning of fixed establishment. Fixed establishment means a place, a place where a place other than place of business, the place other than place of business, which is characterized, which is characterized by the sufficient degree of permanence, which is characterized by which is characterized by the sufficient degree of permanence and suitable structure in the term of human and technical resources to supply the services or to receive the services or to use any services for own needs. So this place is to be known as fixed establishment. This place is to be known as fixed establishment. Import of goods. What is the meaning of import of goods? What is the meaning of import of goods? Section 2, subsection 10. Section 2, subsection 10 of CGST Act. Section 2, subsection 10 of CGST Act define the meaning of import of goods. Define the meaning of import of goods with its grammatical variation, with its grammatical variances and cognate expression. The import of goods means bringing goods into India from a place outside India. Bringing any goods into India from the place outside India. It will be considered as import of goods. For the example, Mr. Ram, he has purchased any goods from USA. Mr. Ram purchased a machine from USA. Then it is import of goods. It is the import of goods because Mr. Ram bring a machine into India from a place outside India. So this is the import of goods. This is the import of goods. Next, import of services. What is the meaning of import of services? What is the meaning of import of services? Section 2, subsection 11 of CGST Act. Section 2, subsection 11 of the CGST Act define the meaning of import of goods. Define the meaning of import of goods. Sorry, import of services. Section 2, subsection 11 define the meaning of import of services. Import of services means the supply of any service. Import of service means the supply of any service where the supplier is where the supplier of the service is located outside India. Where the supplier of service is located outside India. Number two, the recipient of service is located in India. The recipient means the person who is receiving the service is located in India, and the place of supply of the service is in India. And the place of supply of service is in India. When these conditions are satisfied, then such supply will be considered as supply of service. Then such supply will be considered as supply of service. So the import of service means the supply of any service where number one, the location of the supplier is outside India. The person who will supply the service is in outside India. The location of supplier is in outside India. Number two, the recipient of the service. The recipient of service means the receiver of the service is in India. The receiver of the service is in India. And the place of supply of service. The place of supply of service is in India. The place of supply of service is in India. So this is the supply. So this is the import of service. This is the import of service. If all these three conditions are satisfied, then it will be considered as import of service. Otherwise, it will not be considered as import of service if any of the condition is not satisfied. If any of the condition is not satisfied, then it will be considered as it will not be considered as import of services. India. Now we will discuss the meaning of India. What is the meaning of India? India means the territory of India. India means the territory of India referred to in Article 1. Referred to in Article 1 of the Constitution. India means the territory of India as referred to is in Article 1 of the Constitution. It's territorial water. It's territorial water, sheeped and subsoil underlying such water. Sheeped and subsoil underlining such water. Continental shelf, continental shelf, exclusive economic zone, exclusive economic zone, or any other maritime zone, or any other maritime zone as referred in the territorial water, as referred in territorial water, continental shelf, exclusive economic zone, and the other maritime zone. Other Maritime Zone Act 1976, and the airspace above its territory and territorial water. India, definition of the India is defined in section 2, subsection 56. India means the territory of India as referred to in Article 1 of our Constitution. It's territorial water. sheeped and subsoil underlying such water, continental shelf, continental shelf, exclusive economic zone, or any other maritime zone as referred to in territorial water, continental shelf, exclusive economic zone, and other maritime zone act 1976, and the air space above its territory and territorial water. This is the definition of India. So everything included in India: territorial water, continental shelf, economic exclusive economic zone, maritime zone. So this is the definition of India as per section 2 subsection 56 of CGST Act. Next is input tax. What is the meaning of input tax? Input tax in the relation to the registered person. Input tax in the relation to the registered person means input tax in the relation to the registered person means the central tax, state tax, integrated tax, or union territory tax, which is charged on any supply of goods or services or both, which is made to him and includes. Input tax in the relation to the registered person means any registered person means central tax, state tax, integrated tax, or union territory tax. Central tax, state tax, integrated tax, union territory tax, which is charged on any supply of goods, which is charged on any supply of goods, any supply of services or both, which is made to him, and it is include the integrated goods and service tax, which is charged on import of goods. It also includes the integrated goods and the service tax means IGST, which is charged on import of goods. IGST, which is charged on the import of goods. Number two, the tax which is payable under the provision of subsection 3 and subsection 4 of section 9. The tax which is payable under the provision of section the tax which is payable under the provisions of subsection 3 and subsection 4 of section 9. Next, the tax which is payable under the provision of subsection 3 and subsection 4 of section 5 of IGST Act. The tax which is payable under the provision of subsection 3 and subsection 4 of section 9 of the respective state government and state goods and service tax means CGST Act, or the tax which is payable under the provision of subsection 3 and subsection 4 of section 7 of UTGST Act, but it does not include the amount of tax which is paid under the composition levy. But it does not include the amount of tax which is paid under the composition levy. So the input tax means central tax, state tax, CGST tax, integrated tax, and union territory tax, which is charged on supply of goods, supply of service, or both. And it is include IGST, which is charged on importation of goods. The tax which is payable under subsection 3 and subsection 4 of section 9. The tax which is payable under section 5, subsection 3 and subsection 4 of IGST Act. The tax which is payable under section 9 of SGST Act, and the tax which is payable under the provision of section 7, subsection 3 and subsection 4 of UTGST Act. but it does not include the tax which is paid under the composition scheme. It does not include the amount of tax which is paid under the composition scheme. So this is the input tax under the GST. Intermediary. What is the meaning of intermediary? Section 2, subsection 13. Section 2, subsection 13 of CGST Act. Section 2, subsection 13 of the CGST Act define the meaning of intermediary. Intermediary means a broker, an agent, or any other person. Intermediary means a broker, an agent, or any other person by whatever name code, who arrange or facilitates the supply of goods, the supply of service or both, or security between two or more persons, between two and more persons, but it does not include a person who supplies such goods, supply of service or both, or security on his own account. Is that the meaning of the intermediary includes broker and the agent who who supply the goods, who supply the services or both, and who arrange or facilitate the supply of goods, supply of services or both, or security between two or more persons, between the two and more persons, but it does not include those persons. But the definition of the intermediary does not include those persons who supply the goods, who supply the services or both, and security on his own account. For the example, there is a there is Mr. Ram. He is supplying the goods. He appoint a person who will supply the goods or who will supply the service on the behalf of him. On the behalf of him, Mr. Sham Mr. Sham will be considered as an agent, and he is supplying the goods or he is supplying the services or both on the behalf of Ram. So he will be considered as an agent or the intermediary. If he is supplying such goods or such services on his own account, on his own name, then he will not be considered as agent. So this is the definition of intermediary. This is the definition of intermediary who arrange and facilitate the supply of goods, supply of services, supply of security between two and more person on the basis of another person, means on the behalf of another person. Then such person is to be known as intermediary. Non-taxable, non-taxable online recipient. What is the meaning of non-taxable online recipient? Non-taxable online recipient. Section 2, subsection 16 of CGST Act. Section 2, subsection 16 of the CGST Act define the meaning of non-taxable online recipient. Non-taxable online recipient means any government or local authority, any governmental authority, an individual or any other person who is not registered and receiving online information and database access or retrieval services in the relation to any purpose, other than commerce, other than industry, or any other business or profession who are located in taxable territory. Is that non-taxable non-taxable online recipient means any government, any local authority, any government, any local authority, any governmental authority, or individual or any other person who is not registered, under the GST, who is not registered under the GST, and receiving online information and database access or retrieval services in the relation to any purpose, other than commerce, in relation to any purpose other than commerce, industry, or any other business or profession who is located in taxable territory. Then such person is to be known as non-taxable online recipient. Explanation. For the purpose of this clause, the expression government authority means, for the purpose of this section or this clause, the expression government authority means an authority or board or any other body. Government authority means any board, any authority or any other body which is set up, by the act of parliament, which is set up by the act of parliament or state legislature, which is set up by the state of parliament, which is set up by the act of parliament or a state legislature, or established by any government, established by the any government, and with 90% or more than 90% participant, more than 90% or more than 90% participation, by the way of equity, by the way of equity or control, to carry out any function entrusted to the panchayat under Article 243G or to the municipality under Article 243W of the Constitution. Is that for the purpose of this clause, the expression governmental authority means an authority or a board or any other body which is set up by an act of parliament or state legislature, or which is established by any government, or which is established by any government with 90% or more than 90% participation by the way of equity or control, by the way of equity or control, to carry out any function, to carry out any function entrusted to a panchayat under Article 243G or to a municipality under Article 243B of the Constitution. So this is the definition of, or is the meaning of, governmental authority. Location of recipient of the service means. Location of recipient of the service means. Location of recipient of service. What is the meaning of location of recipient of service? Section 2, subsection 14 of CGST Act contain the provision of, or contain the definition of, location of recipient of service. Location of recipient of service. Location of recipient of service means where a supply is received by the place of business for which registration has been obtained. Where a supply is received at the place of business for which registration has been obtained, for which registration has been obtained, the location of such place of business. Then the location of recipient of service is the location of such place of business. Number 2, where a supply is received, where a supply is received at the place other than place of business, where a supply is received at a place other than place of business for which registration has been obtained, for which registration has been obtained. That is to say, if a fixed establishment elsewhere. Location of such a fixed establishment. The location of such a fixed establishment. Where a supply is received at more than one establishment. Where the supply is received at more than one establishment. Whether the place of business or the fixed establishment, the location of the establishment must directly connected with the recipient of supply, and in the absence of such place, the location of usual place of residence of the recipient will be considered as place of or location of recipient of service. Is that where a supply is received, where a supply is where a supply is received at the place of business for which registration has been obtained, for which the registration has been obtained. In this case, the location of such a place of business. In this case, the location of such place of business will be considered as location of recipient. Number two, where the supply is received, where the supply is received at the at a place, where the supply is received at a place other than place of business, where the supply is received at a place other than place of business for which registration has been obtained, for which registration has been obtained. That is to say the fixed establishment, fixed establishment, as where in this case the location of such fixed establishment, the location of such fixed establishment will be considered as location of recipient. The location of fixed establishment will be considered as location of recipient. Number three, where the supply is received, where the supply is received at more than one establishment, where the supply is received at more than one establishment, whether the place of business or fixed establishment, whether the place of business or fixed establishment, the location of the recipient, the location of establishment most directly connected, which is most directly connected with the recipient of supply, which is most directly connected with the recipient of supply, will be considered as location of recipient. And in the absence of such place, in the absence of such place, the location of usual place of residence means the residence place will be considered as location of recipient. His residence will be considered as location of recipient of service. So this is the definition of location of recipient of service. Location of recipient of service. Location of supplier of service. What is the definition of location of supplier of service? Location of supplier of service means what is the location of supplier of service? Where the supply is made from a place of business for which registration has been obtained, where the supply is made from place of business for which registration has been obtained, then the location of such place of business, then the location of such place of business will be considered as location of supplier of service, means for which the registration has been obtained. Number two, where the supply is made, where the supply is made from place other than place of business. When the supply is made from a place other than place of business for which registration has been obtained, for which the registration has been obtained. That is say a fixed establishment, that is say fixed establishment, then the location of such fixed establishment, then the location of such fixed establishment will be known as location of supplier of service. If the supply of the service is made from any other place other than registered place, then it will be considered as location of supplier of service. Number three, where the supply is made, where the supply is made from more than one establishment, where the supply is made from more than one establishment, whether the place of business or fixed establishment, the location of the establishment which is more or which is most directly connected with the provision of supply, means if there is any supply is made from more than one location, then the establishment which is most directly connected with the supply will be considered as location of supply. And in the absence of such places, if any of the place is not available, the location of usual place of residence, the location of usual place of residence of the supplier will be considered as location of supplier of service. If these places are not available, then the location of usual place of residence means the residence of supplier will be considered as location of supplier of service. First, the location which is registered under the GST. If it is not available means the service is provided from any other place of business, then such fixed establishment from where the service is provided or the service is supplied. Number three, if the supply is made from more than one location, then the place of supply shall be the such a location which is most directly connected with the provision of supply. And number four, if any of the place is not there, the location of usual place of residence, the location of usual place of residence of the supplier is considered as location of supplier of service. Location of supplier of service. Online information and database access of or retrieval services. What is the meaning of online information and database access or retrieval services? Online information, online information and database access or retrieval services defined in the section 2 subsection 17. Section 2 subsection 17 of the CGST Act defines the meaning of online information and database access or retrieval services. It means services whose delivery is mediated. The service whose delivery is made by the information technology over the internet or an electronic network. Online information and database access or retrieval services are those services which are delivered through the information technology over the internet or an electronic network, and the nature of which renders their supply initially automated or involving minimal human intervention. Means where the delivery of the service is made through the internet, through the information technology, over or by the use of internet or an electronic network which is include or which is use very minimum human intervention. Means the human intervention is very much minimum and impossible to ensure in the absence of information technology. These information are impossible, means that transfer or the supply of these informations are impossible in the if there is the absence of IT, there is the absence of information technology, and it includes and these information includes electronic service such as these information includes electronic services such as advertising on the internet, such as advertising on the internet. Number two, providing cloud services, providing the cloud services, provisions of ebook, movie, music, software, and other intangibles through telecommunication network or internet, providing data or information, retrieval or otherwise to any person in electronic form through a computer network. Online supply, online supply of digital content, online supplies of digital content, digital data storage, and online gaming. These all are electronic services are to be considered as online information and database and retrieval services. Is that the services which are provided through the information technology over the internet or an electronic network where the human intervention is very low and which are not possible without the IT, without the information technology. So these services are to be known as online information and database access or retrieval services. Place of business. What is the meaning of place of business? Section 2, subsection 85 of CGST Act define the meaning of place of business. What is the meaning of place of business? Place of business includes a place from where the business is ordinarily carried on. A place of business means a place from where the business is ordinarily carried on, and it includes a warehouse, a godown, or any other place where a taxable person store his goods, supply or receive goods or service or both. The place of business include the place from where business is ordinarily carried on, means from where the activity of the business carried out, and it is also include a warehouse, a godown, or any other place where a taxable person, it is include a warehouse and the godown, and it is also include a place from where where the taxable person store his books, store his goods, supply or receive goods or services or both. From here, from where he stored his goods, supply the goods and services, and receive goods and services or both. Or place of business include a place where the taxable person maintain his books of account. Is that the place where the taxable person maintain his books of accounts will also be known as place of business. Next, a place where a taxable person is engaged. A place where a taxable person is engaged in business through an agent. A place where a taxable person is engaged in the business through an agent by whatever name called. Such place will also be known as place of business. Such place is also be known as place of business. So this is the definition of place of business. Place of business include a place from where business is ordinarily carried out. It is also include warehouse. It is also include godown. It is also include those places where the goods are stored, where the supply of goods and supply of services or both received. Number two, the it is also include the place where the books of accounts are made, where the maintenance of books of accounts is done by the taxable person, and it is also include a place where the taxable person is engaged in the business through his agent, means from where the agent is supplying the goods, supplying the services, or both on the behalf of principal, then such place will also be considered as place of business as per section 2 subsection 85 of CGST Act. Recipient. What is the meaning of recipient? Recipient of supply of goods, supply of service, or both means the recipient of supply of goods, supply of service, or supply of both means Number one, where the consideration is payable, where the consideration is payable for the supply of goods, where the consideration is payable for the supply of goods, supply of services, or both, then the person who is required or who is liable to pay that consideration. The person who is liable to pay the consideration. For the example, Mr. Ram purchased some material from Mr. Shah. Mr. Ram is paying the amount to Mr. Shah. So in this case, Mr. Ram, he is the recipient because he is the liable to pay the consideration to Mr. Shah. So he will be considered as recipient. Number two, where no consideration is payable for the supply of goods. Where no consideration is payable for the supply of goods, then the person to whom goods are delivered, then the person to whom goods are delivered or made available, or to whom possession or use of the goods is given or made available, where no consideration is payable for the supply of goods, where no consideration is payable for the supply of goods, the person to whom goods are delivered or made available, or to the person to whom the possession or the use of goods is given or made available. For the example, Mr. Ram and Mr. Sham, they are the good friends. Mr. Ram supplies some goods to Mr. Sham without any consideration. So in this case, Mr. Sham, he will he will receive the goods, means Mr. Ram will deliver such goods to Mr. Sham or made available to him, or Mr. Sham, he will use such goods. Then in this case, Mr. Sham will be considered as recipient. In this case, Mr. Sham will be considered as recipient, where no consideration is required to be paid for supply of goods. Number three, where no consideration is payable for the supply of service, the person to whom service is rendered, the person to whom service is rendered. For the example, Mr. Ram, he is the supplier of services. He is the supplier of services. He he updated the software. He updated the software. Mr. Shyam, who is the best friend of Mr. Ram. Mr. Ram updated the computer software of Mr. Shyam's computer without any consideration. Without any consideration. So in this case, to whom service is rendered means in this case Mr. Shyam will be considered as a recipient. He will be considered as a recipient because he is the person who has received the services. Is that the person to whom service is rendered? So Mr. Shyam is the person to whom services rendered by Mr. Ram to Mr. Shyam. So in this case, the Shyam is a recipient, and any reference to the person to whom a supply is made shall be constructed as a reference to the recipient of the supply and shall include a person who is acting as an agent on the behalf of recipient in relation to goods, services, or both. Is that if there is any other person who is who is receiving the goods on the behalf of any other person, on the behalf of reference to any person, then such person and the agent who is acting on the behalf of his principal will also be considered as recipient. For the example, Mr. Sham, he is the agent of Mr. Ram. He is receiving some goods on the behalf of Mr. Ram. He is receiving some goods on the behalf of Ram. Then he will be considered as recipient. then Mr. Sham will be considered as recipient. So this is the definition of recipient. So this is the definition of recipient of goods, recipient of service, or both. Section 2, subsection 93 of CGST Act. What is the meaning of supplier? What is the meaning of supplier? Supplier in the relation to any goods, services, or both. Supplier in the relation to services. Supplier in the relation to services. Supplier in the relation to any goods or services or both means the person who supplying the said goods or services or both. Supplier means the person who is supplying the said goods or services or both, and it is also include an agent, who is acting on the behalf of the supplier in the relation to goods or services or both. Means it is also include the agent who is acting on the behalf of principal in the relation to supply of goods, supply of services, or both. For the example, Mr. Ram, he is supplying some goods to the customer, then he will be considered as supplier of such goods, and he appoint Mr. Sham as an agent. He will supply the goods, he will supply the services or both, and he will also receive goods and services on the behalf of him. So in this case, the agent, he is the he is the agent of Mr. Ram, who and he will also supply the goods on the behalf of Mr. Ram. Then he will also be considered as supplier. He will also considered as supplier. So this is the definition of supplier. So on the basis of such a discussion, we have discussed the introduction of import and export under the GST, and we have also understand some important and the relevant definitions under such concept. In this class, we have discussed important definitions. All these definitions are very much relevant to understand the provision of such concept. Thank you so much for watching this video. Okay, bye bye and have a nice day.